And if I could ask those asking a question to please identify yourself and state your affiliation. The first question will be going to Munich Young Leader, Richard Heydarian, who's seated in the second row. He's professorial chairholder in geopolitics at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Richard, please.
Thank you, Richard. I'm Richard Heydarian. It's good to still be considered as young and be back here in Munich. The first informal meeting of Quad, I think, was in Manila, and it was a decade later that the leaders of Quad actually, again in Manila, came to meet each other. Recently, we had a presidential debate in the Philippines, and it seems even our presidential candidates don't know what is the Quad all about. Can you tell us about Quad? What is it? Is it the Asian NATO? Is it a NATO with Asian characteristics? Is it just an ad hoc body? And to what degree does the evolution of Quad, maybe in the next 10 years, tethered to behavior of China? And by that matter, also calculus of India, because we have 3 treaty allies here. India is not. So I think, to what degree does China and India's calculus play into the trajectory of Quad in the next decade or so? Thank you very much.
I assume that's at me, right? Look, you know, the first time the Quad countries came together was actually in 2004. In response to the Boxing Day tsunami, and I had an association with it. I was the country coordinator, in a sense, for India for that response. Then their representatives met in 2007, as you said, in Manila, but the countries were not sufficiently invested in it politically, so they kind of let it fritter away. And then they met again a decade later. In 2017, in September, this time at a higher level of a sort of permanent secretary, vice minister sort of level. 2019, it became ministers, which was when we first met, and 2021, it's become a summit. Now, what is the Quad about? You know, it's in a sense natural, because partly you're sitting in Europe, but also because all of us pull out concepts from pre-existing lexicon to say it's an Asian NATO, because it's a very convenient, if completely misleading term, but still very convenient. And of course there are interested parties who advance that kind of analogy. I would put it to you as 4 countries who have common interests, common values, a great deal of comfort, who happen, by the way, to be located at 4 corners of the Indo-Pacific, who found out that in this world, no country, not even the United States today, has the ability to address big global challenges all on their own. So if you look right now, and you know, my Prime Minister used this phrase, Quad as a force for global good. What's the Quad doing? The Quad's trying to supply 1 billion vaccines, which are American IPR, produced in India, funded and logistically supported by Japan and Australia, as well as the 2 of us. It's working on ensuring more reliable supply chains. It's looking at critical emerging technologies, making sure that 5G, 6G, those domains are trusted and transparent. Looking at promoting education, at maritime security, at ensuring that connectivity projects are market-based, viable. So there is a lot of the global element to what the Quad is doing. Now, obviously, if there are challenges to global norms, global order, to international law, to rules-based order, it makes sense that, you know, anybody who's working for the good will also look at challenges to the good. So I would urge you not to slip into that, forgive my saying so, that lazy analogy of an Asian NATO. It isn't, because there are 3 countries who are treaty allies. We are not a treaty ally. Quad doesn't have a treaty, it doesn't have a structure, it doesn't have a secretariat. It's a kind of this is a 21st century way of responding to a more diversified, dispersed world. Sorry for a long answer, but I thought it's a good explanation.
Thank you. Did anyone else have anything to add with that?
I think that was an excellent answer.
So
let me say just a few things, because Jay already mentioned about practicality of the Quad. We don't have any treaty. We don't have any framework, but like-minded country of 4 of us joined and talked, and already we came up with projects such as a vaccine, and further we just met last week actually in the leadership of Lee's, so that we'll further advance our cooperations in a wide range, like climate change, infrastructure, and especially I really would like to see the critical technologies such as quantum, biotech, and in the area of economic state cloud, so that like-minded countries' shared value is the key of the Quad, I think.